I'm going to break away from the world of politics and delve deep into the ocean of poetry. Poetry, it goes without saying, is profounder than politics or anything else that I could think of. The name of the book I'm going to review today is Summer Requiem by Vikram Seth. This book was published by Aleph Publications in the year 2015. This book contains 45 poems. It's a collection of 45 poems which were written over a period of 20 years. I will say these 45 poems which are contained in this book are bound together by the thread of melancholia. Why I am saying so? The very name of the book suggests melancholia, nostalgia, remembrance of things past. What is the meaning of Requiem? Requiem means a mass for the solace of the souls of dead, or it means a token remembrance. So this book celebrates remembrance of things past, it celebrates nostalgia, and it also celebrates melancholia. There are 45 poems, as I said earlier. On each and every page of this book, you encounter either nostalgia or melancholia, but at the same time, it does not induce depression in you. Why? Because though the poet is talking about things that are no longer part of his present, things which have gone by, things which live in the land of memory. And what is memory? Memory is like poetry far from reality. So all the things that he is talking about is not real, is not part of his life at the moment, but yet it doesn't break him. It gives him a feeling of nostalgia, but at the same time, it gives him the courage to go through his daily life. So he is celebrating all that have gone by rather than lamenting. Nowhere in this book you come across lamentation. So there is nostalgia, there is melancholia. Briefly you will encounter grief as well, but lamentation is not there. The first poem in this book is called Summer Requiem. The name of the book is also Summer Requiem. And the poet here in this poem talks about certain things. There are certain things which he talks about. It sounds counterintuitive. On third line of the very first poem, or fourth line, he says that all those he has encountered in his life, they have a terror of intensity. He says that though this generation is liberated, but yet it lives a restrained youth. It is counterintuitive. Counterintuitive in the sense that the generation is liberated, but yet it is living a restrained youth. What does it mean? This line tells more about the poet than the people he is talking about. The passion that the poet has is unparalleled and unequaled. The passion that he is trying to find outside in the world, it is not there, and he is not able to meet anyone who could match his intensity. And that's why the poet says that everyone I seek has a terror of intensity. The liberated generation lives a restrained youth. In this poem, the poet also talks about memory, and he calls memory a poison. He says, memory is a poison. It has sickened my body. The cleavage of attachment has frayed my mind. So the very first poem in this book talks about his passion and his inability to find someone in who he could take refuge. His inability to find somebody in whom he could confide his, I won't say shortcomings, but his grief, his nostalgia, his melancholia. And the same poem also talks about how memory is ruining his life, how memory is sickening his body. It is making his life a little problematic as he is not able to carry through his daily routine properly. How attachment is creating problem for him. So the first poem, far from lamentation. Don't come to a conclusion that the first poem is a lamentation. No, it is not. It is celebration of melancholia, I will say that. You also get a hint that this poem was written when the poet was trying to entertain himself. Now, those who have read William Butler Yeats will remember that Yeats, when he was asked that for who poets write poems, he said that poets never write poems for anyone. Poems are written by poets to entertain themselves. He said, I write my songs to entertain myself when I am alone. It is my way of dealing with my solitude. So the first poem, you get a hint that it was written when the poet was caught in a room, was trapped in a room, and he was trying to entertain himself, or when the poet was feeling little lonely and he was trying to deal with his solitude. So it is not lamentation, it is celebration of melancholia. This is the reason why I said it is a celebration of melancholia. There are other poems where he talks about all the things that have gone by, remembrance of things past. If it reminds you of a French writer, then you are not wrong, because this is what happens in poems after poems. He talks about how he is missing his beloved, and he comes across a person who takes name of his beloved, and there he stood like an owl waiting for the person to say his beloved's name once again. So there is a hint of a jilted lover trying to hang on to the last glimmer of hope. He doesn't even know, he or she, we don't know the gender of the narrator who is telling the poem, but because it is written by Vikram Seth, I will be using the pronoun he. So he doesn't even know if the person who has taken his beloved names, he has taken actually his beloved names. There are so many people by the same name, but yet he stood there in the restaurant like an owl, waiting for the man or the woman to take his beloved's name once again, and it made him feel very happy to listen to the consonants and vowels. That is his words, the narrator's words. And he says, I hope there comes a time when I don't love you the way I love you today. So again, there is a feeling of melancholia, there is a feeling of nostalgia, there is a celebration of past, there is a celebration of happiness that once was there in the past. And there is a poem called Can't, where he talks about his inability to come out of bed and go through his daily chores. He says that I can't get out of my bed, but I have to come out of my bed because I am in red. To be in red means to be in debt. So he has to come out because he has no other option. But if he is left to his own, he won't like to come out of his bed. He would like to lie there. His mental incapacity, he is physically unable to cope with the demand of the day. The bright darkness, the night, it embraces him, but the dark daylight, it frustrates him a little. So again, you have a theme where the poet is trying to shake off his responsibility, not because he is coward, but because he just doesn't like the dogfight of every day. He wants to live a life on his own terms. He laments a little in this poem where he says, who will fetch my clothes from that distant chair? There is no one to kiss my tears away, and all those things. So again, there is a hint of melancholia, nostalgia. These two words keep repeating themselves again and again on each and every page of this book. Towards the end of this book, you will come across translation of poets from different countries. So you have a translation of Leopardi. A sonnet of Leopardi has been translated. It is a very beautiful translation, though I don't know the original language in which that sonnet was written, but when I read that sonnet, it appealed to me. It was very beautiful. The translation is quite beautiful. This book traces the immutable shift of the season. That is true. The summer, the dying of the sunlight, the sun is setting, and you feel that the poet feels very strongly about the changes that take place in our life. But he also takes refuge in the fact. The poet is very happy to remind himself that change is the only constant. When everything changes around him, when he's left with a sense of loss all the time, he's trying to make himself feel happy by saying that, look, change is the only constant and I can take refuge in the change if I'm not able to cope with the change. So again, you have a poet who is not only melancholic but at the same time trying to find out a way of dealing with his nostalgia and melancholia and his grief. Memory is another theme which repeats itself in this book again and again. How would I rate this book? Out of 5, I would give this book 3.5 stars. It's a book which is strongly recommended. It's not a classic. This book has a shelf life of less than 20 years. After 20 years, nobody would like to read this book. These poems, 45 poems, which were written over a long duration of time, 20 years. But in the present, all the poems will appeal to you. It is strongly recommended if you are going through a bout of depression, if you are not feeling well, if you are feeling low, then you can pick up this book, and counterintuitively it will make you feel better. Why I have used the word counterintuitively? Because the theme of the book is melancholia and nostalgia. So how it is going to make those who are melancholic feel better? But this is what this book does. When you read, you understand that what is happening. The poet is being true to shift in his moods, nothing more than that, nothing less than that. It's a luminous book, there is no doubt about this. But it is not a profound book. If you are trying to find something profound, a very meaningful thing, then this is not the book you should be coming to, because it talks about everyday's challenge. It talks about things that we encounter in our everyday life. It is like it's like a question which has been with us since a very long time: to be or not to be. Thank you so very much. Bye for now.